people will not forget who they are. Issues of ethnicity, of nationalism, are born with people. It defines who they are. It is their language, it's their culture, it's their way of thinking, it's their worldview. There is no need denying it. The thing to do is to manage it. And the military mismanaged it. The funny thing, maybe the sad part of it is that the civilians who took over eventually and understand the problem that Nigeria went through in the process of getting to be a country from 1914 to 1966 know that the issue of federalism was very extensively discussed and negotiated in the Lancaster House in England as a basis for Nigeria's independence. So violating it was going to violate a fundamental principle of Nigeria's foundation. And that has been the problem, whether people like to admit it or not. I always put it this way. It doesn't matter who you make president, really, whether it is the current person, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, or it is Peter Obi who won, or Atiku, or Buhari, and so on. They can only perform marginally for as long as their individual characteristics and capacities can lead them. But I can tell you, they cannot lift Nigeria from that place it is now, which is not good, to the next level and the next level to begin to be relevant and compete in the community of nations as a critical player, as a strategic player.
And is that what you would say to those who fear that such radical alterations could lead to volatility across Nigeria, especially now?
In fact, I don't see anything radical about it, because it's not as if it's something we haven't known before. From the Lancaster House negotiations around 1954 until 1966, Nigeria was running something like a truly federalist state. And if you look back then, particularly from the date of independence in October 1960 until the military intervened, Nigeria, the western Nigeria, eastern Nigeria, and the north, and the newly created Midwest state in 1963, these were the highest performing regions in terms of economic growth and development in the world. It wasn't just in Africa. In fact, it was in the world. The Southwest, the Southeast were rated as one of the highest growing economies in the world. I can tell you today, Charles, that the per capita income Nigeria achieved in 1964-65, we have not reached back to that level again today.
But obviously the people are curious to know exactly what form the political rejigging that you're talking about will need to take. And they will also want to know how restructuring is going to make life easier. And I'm talking about what is happening today for struggling Nigerians who are forced to live with soaring inflation. I mean, these are the practical things they have to deal with. Tripling fuel prices, rising cost of living, and one of the biggest falls in the Naira's history. Exactly. They will want to know how restructuring will push hunger, poverty, and hardship into the shadows.
You see, these problems you have listed, I can tell you they're a fallout of the wrong structure, the wrong foundational structure of Nigeria, because everyone from Sokoto to Maiduguri to Calabar to Port Harcourt to Owerri to everywhere, everyone looks up to the federal government to solve these problems. And it should not be so. In a federalist state, your attention should be in the state government where you reside. That government should take responsibility for these things, not a distant federal government that probably doesn't have officials, bureaucrats who don't even understand the local terrain, the environment.
Yeah, but there's nothing stopping state governments from development at the moment.
It has actually restricted a lot of things. Part of it is this. Instead of the citizens looking up to their state capitals, they they bypass them and
Right.
look up to the federal government that is so far away.
And that
That's
kind of
who
gives
takes
them an opt-out.
Exactly, and
Right.
that gives the governors a free right to do whatever they please. There's some other thing in that constitution which must be changed. You give monthly allocations to states that should be given allocations to the federal government, and then
So they should control their resources, basically,
absolutely,
and then
there
pay
is,
a sort of
there is
tax.
no mechanism even for controlling what the governors do with the money. There's no accountability mechanisms, nothing. So if we do not restructure, honestly, I believe strongly, and many people know it, most of the politicians know it, if we don't restructure and give back power to the people to make of themselves the best they can be, Nigeria is going to be just managing to...
Right. It will never quite achieve its potential.
It will never achieve that potential.
And President Tinubu is seen by many as a pro-democracy advocate who fought for the return of the military to the barracks. So with that background, do you expect him to be the arrowhead of a far-reaching constitutional attempt to restructure Nigeria and unravel an existential crisis in this country, as you said there is?
To tell you the truth, Charles, if I were President Tinubu today, given the circumstances, the environment of the polity, the economy, and everything he inherited, I would probably lead back, look back my shoulder, take a look at my antecedents, take a look at my precedents. What brought me into the prominence of Nigerian politics? It was NADECO politics. And NADECO was about sovereign national conference, restructuring, and all of that. I can hazard a guess that without NADECO and restructuring, probably we would never have heard of a Tinubu. So if I were him, I will hark back to that period and resurrect that agenda, because it is the critical agenda. It is the foundational agenda for Nigeria to pick itself up and survive. Yes, there are many people who will oppose it because they're enjoying a temporary advantages and things. But those advantages, their children are not going to inherit it. Their children's children are not going to inherit it, so it is not good for Nigeria.
But some would argue, I mean, as you already made the point, that there are some, I'd go beyond saying some people, to say some regions in Nigeria would probably oppose the idea of restructuring. And the point has been made about possibly using a softly approach, especially in today's politically polarized environment. And the point has been made about previous administrations, Yaradua, Jonathan, desiring to hear different political voices and different points of view about both politics and development in Nigeria, which has been described as laudable, the way they tried to do it. Is that the kind of makeup in a room that should be considered by this Tinubu government? Or is there a sense that disagreement and a lack of unanimity and a lack of consensus will be the result in such a disputed, polarized political environment as we have in Nigeria?
You know, politics in Nigeria have always been polarized because it is ethnic identity politics, whether we like to admit it or not. That's what it is, ethnic identity politics. However, the majority of cognizant Nigerian elites know. In the southwest, in the southeast, in the south-south, and that movement has been on for quite a while. I used to attend meetings of the South Middle Belt Leadership Forum, and all the agenda was about restructuring Nigeria. Even the Middle Belt, a chunk of which we call the North, also believe very strongly that unless Nigeria is restructured, they will never have the freedom they need to
develop
their place. Develop their place and be who they wish to be and develop their own identity. So it is those who say that, it is if you restructure, you are weakening the sinews of Nigerian sovereignty. They know they are wrong. In fact, that's the only thing that can actually unite Nigeria and strengthen it, because it will give people the purpose. Look at how youth fleeing Nigeria. For what? a country given, endowed with virtually everything we need to grow and become one of the most successful countries in the world.
But what I'm wondering is, I mean, is it perhaps because of the expected opposition to full-scale restructuring that you yourself have identified? I mean, is it perhaps a good idea to say, let's just start by sitting around the table and talk about sorting out the polarizations that we have in politics today? Because to some extent, that's the purpose of government, to act as a unifying force, an attempt to sort of overcome and get beyond the polarization, and getting people to sit around a table and listen respectfully to each other and speak from the heart about the best way to solve this country's problems might be a good move right now in this political environment, rather than just going straight to sort of restructuring.
You cannot reset a country just by executive fiat or even legislative fiat. It won't work. So there's need to talk. There have been several such discussions, and the fact is, one presidential candidate in the last election told me, he said, once a person becomes president, all the talk of restructuring disappears because he now has an empire in which
he wants to keep it.
And he wants to keep it. Yeah.
He wants to be a Roman emperor.
I believe him. Yeah. But the idea of a president is a super patriot who sees beyond his own personal interest to see what ultimately is the best interest of the people I rule and the country.
Because, of course, it's a tremendous opportunity to make a fundamental difference.
That's absolutely what it is.
To the destiny of millions of people.
So when they say we don't know what it is they're not being honest, those who say they don't know what restructuring is. Restructuring is a simple thing. It is going back to a modified form of what we had between 1960 and 1966, which is what are the component units of federal Nigeria? What powers do they have vis-a-vis the federal?
So it doesn't matter whether they're states or regional.
No, it doesn't really matter.
Right.
It doesn't, as long as there is consensus, those who belong to those federating units that we want to be here. If some wish to merge with others, why not? Because many people have argued that 36 states plus federal is too many, because resources that could have been concentrated, agglomerated for program is being shared and distributed to all sorts of assistants and advisors and all sorts of things.
That's a good point. Yeah. And we've got about a minute and a half or so left. Very interesting conversation. Let me ask you, you know a lot about this country, and you've represented this country internationally and locally. You've written books about Nigeria. How confident are you that sooner rather than later Nigeria will get it right or start the process of getting it right?
Charles, the thing is, there is no alternative to ultimate resetting of Nigeria because this one is not working. To not work. Things got worse under the last administration when President Buhari, I'm not mincing words here when I say he just mismanaged the national diversity of Nigeria. He mismanaged it so grossly that I can say that outside the Civil War period, Nigeria has never been more divided than this. This is the best time, the best opportunity. It's a difficult time, but the best opportunity for the present head of state to say, listen, it is time for reset. And his background says, his party manifesto also says the same thing. Why the APC ignores its own manifesto on restructuring, we don't, that's maybe something they should come to terms with now. We didn't put it there for them, they did.
Right, and it is your belief that restructuring will not only have an immediate impact in Nigeria, but also be good for future generations.
In fact, it is the only thing on the card to take Nigeria away from where it is, which is poor performance globally, to another place. Because when you give people and in their enclaves the power and the authority, the autonomy to do things for themselves, they put in everything. They put in everything. But when they are doing things, say, for some distant power in Abuja or something, it's so impersonal. Everybody, in fact, most people who come from the federative units to Abuja come to get their share and go back. Yeah.
Good day to our viewers all over the world, and welcome back to Local Journal. I don't know why the Nigerian leaders are not talking about this restructuring or taking this restructuring thing seriously, because this is actually what we need in this country now, because the government at the center is far away from the people. We need a restructured system so that the government can be closer to the people, because the way and the system, the manner Nigeria is being run currently will not take us anywhere. The system of government we're practicing before this unitary system of government was enforced on us by the military is far better than what we are practicing today. It is very obvious that Nigeria cannot go anywhere if Nigeria is not restructured, because if we continue going this way, there is no way we can achieve anything. We need a restructured country. Nigeria needs to go back to the structure we're practicing before now. This system we're practicing doesn't favor anybody. It doesn't favor anybody at all. And I know some quarter of the country are not interested in restructuring because of what they stand to gain from this unitary system we're practicing. But then we need to look at the bigger picture. The bigger picture will benefit every region, and it will make every region work hard so that they can achieve their objective. The North, the East, and the West were doing very well when we had a regional government. So why don't we go back to that system? This is the best system in the interest of Nigeria. Kindly drop what you have to say in the comment section. And if today is your first time to visit our channel, please kindly like, share, and subscribe to our channel.